Hey guys, it's Todd with Project 9. Welcome to Personal Development Hacks. We focus on helping you guys get off of autopilot, do what truly inspires you, and live your best life. So, got another special guest today, so I will bring him in. His name is Herb Hay Averett. Hi, Herb.
Hello, Todd. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. Yourself?
I'm doing really good, and I'd really like to thank you for having me on today. You know, this message, especially with what you're talking about in your intro, this helps a lot with helping people get unstuck.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, for the viewing audience that either doesn't know you, doesn't know kind of what you're all about, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know?
All right, my name is Herbert Hay Averett, and I am a psycho-spiritual and psychedelic integration coach. Um, I was a businessman. I worked at Intel. I was growing my life. And in the process, I got a business that was working for me. And I had a snowboarding accident. I fell, I hit my head. It wasn't the first time, but it was the most damaging. And when I came out of it, I had actually hurt my body too. I started on the recovering of my body and I didn't pay attention to my head. And my business started suffering. I started losing my emotional control. When things got rough, I actually yelled at my employees a couple of times, and that had never happened before. So I thought I was going insane. Something was wrong. I couldn't figure out what it was because it had been like a year or two since I'd actually had the snowboarding where I'd hurt myself. And I had started looking up how to get out of depression on the internet and stuff. And through that process, a lot of videos started coming up about psychedelics and how psychedelics one time can help you get out of depression or one time can help you stop smoking. And this was, again, six years ago. And in the last 6 years, the movement of psychedelics has become a lot more out there, a lot more acceptable. Like the ketamine clinics are showing up all over the United States right now to help people through depression and other issues. But I chose to do it by myself. And so the first time I did 5 grams of the heroic dose, and I had a really ordinary day. It was my brain doesn't work right. So it was like 10 years of insomnia rolled up into one afternoon. And so I thought I had done something wrong or I didn't have the right mushrooms. So I stepped it up to 17 grams a couple of weeks later. And then I had a really weird, interesting conversation with death. So I spent 3-ish years trying to figure this out by myself. I did ayahuasca, LSD, mushrooms. I ran the gamut of psychedelics. And in the process of that, I also had gone to an Amen clinic and had my brain scanned. And they take pictures of your brain with nuclear medicine. And when the doctor came and reviewed it after all of my scans, like we talked for a few minutes like this, and then he's looking at my papers. He's like, wow, you're remarkably well put together for as much brain damage as you have. And I'm looking at these pictures, and there's lots of places where there's no blood flow in my brain. There's big, huge gaps. It makes for really pretty pictures, but it's a really scary prognosis. Your brain in these things is supposed to be just like a big melon, a big salt, but mine had like holes and pock marks where stuff doesn't work right. And so after 3 years of trying to fix this with psychedelics on my own, I was done. I was at the end of my rope. I had gone to a friend and had a problem, and it like threw me off a cliff emotionally. And in that time, my wife got really scared for my health. She kind of put me on a suicide watch, basically. And then she started hearing about something called ibogaine. And a lot of soldiers and veterans who have been into really traumatic situations who've come back and have heard this and who've tried all of the other psychedelics, who've tried the mushrooms and the ayahuasca, and it doesn't work. Well, there's one more that you can try, and it's ibogaine. And ibogaine saved my life. It is not something that you can do recreationally. it's a very intense experience. It's a 24 to 36 hour experience. It does lower your heart rate. So when you do, they hook you up to monitors. I have an IV. It is a medical experience. But the part that really saved my life was for the first time, somebody introduced me to integration coaching when I went to do the ibogaine. So I did 3 sessions of coaching. Why are you doing this? What are you expecting to get out of it? What are the problems that you're having that you're hoping you need to look at and go away? And what are your intentions for this medicine? And then afterwards, there was like, okay, what did you experience? How does that relate to what you went in for? What did you learn about yourself? And how can you start implementing what you learned in your life? And that little difference of having an intention of going into it, understanding that I'm going to have work to do afterwards, and then having the experience, which with the coaching beforehand helped make it make sense during it, even though in a psychedelic experience, stuff doesn't make sense. That's kind of why you do it. And then afterwards, my coach was so, she liked me and the way I talk because I'm different. And she's like, you have so much of the tools already for being a coach. I recommend that not only for your continued recovery, but also to help other people. She recommended that I become a coach. So I joined the coaching program, Being True to You, which is a nationally accredited program. It makes great coaches. It's an incredibly thorough program. It's 6 months to get the certification, and finished that. Joined the community of coaches, and I now have a coaching business. It's kind of small still, because I'm I'm kind of new at this, and
you don't walk into 10,000 clients.
Don't walk into 10,000 clients. And I just have a really interesting, unique point of view because of all of the stuff I've done. I'm also an INFJ, which is a kind of a rare personality type on the Myers-Briggs. And that just the Myers-Briggs just talks about the brain functions that you prefer to use. So as an INFJ, my main preferred brain function is introverted intuition. So when something happens, I go inside and I look through my history to see if I have a related experience so that I can understand the way people feel or what's going on. So when stuff happens, I go inside first to look for for a relatable reason to talk about it and then to go forward. And that's actually really rare brain type. Most people have a sense of looking at the external world, figuring out what is happening, and then figuring out how they need to go through it. And I'm kind of interesting. I go into my internal world and then I compare it to the external, and then I figure out how to do it. So it's a different way of thinking about things, of looking at things, of moving through things. And it gives me a great deal of empathy to understand how other people are feeling and what they're going through. It gives me an ability to talk about the psychedelic experience and things that people have a lot of trouble putting into words, and being able to help people make sense of that. So in that respect, I'm almost a psychedelic myself, because I help shift people's realities just with the way I talk. And so to then take the medicine and then work with someone who is in this realm, it just makes the work so much better. So for instance, I have a sister who got really depressed and is starting to do ketamine, but she is not doing coaches. Why would she listen to her little brother, right, about getting a coach? So she's gone through like a dozen treatments, and she's using it like an antidepressant pill. She's not fixing the things in her life. She's not growing her life to move herself out of the situations that cause her to the way she feels or her depressive symptoms. So she is using it like an antidepressant, and she's not growing out of her symptoms. So it does kind of work that way, but it does start to lose its effectiveness after a while. So if you're working with a coach while you're doing the psychedelic medicine, it like puts on afterburners and you can just really take off. We help you stay focused. And again, I'm not telling you what to do if you become my coach. What we do is we talk about the experiences you have. We figure out what you found in your experience, what you think you need to do. And then I give suggestions for tools to do. Oh, you feel like you need to more calm inside. Well, there's meditation, there's yoga, there's walking meditations, there's other things that we can do to bring that. And then I can help you figure out your personality, what's going to work with you, bring in different modalities, help you figure out what works, and then help you start growing your life. So these medicines don't fix you. They show you how you can fix yourself. And then with a coach, we help keep you on that path and move you towards what you want, towards your life, towards you being true to you, not to what society thinks. Oh, you need to focus on your business, and this is how. I'm not the business coach. Oh, you need to focus on this part of your life and do that. No, I'm not that. I'm a you coach. What do you need to grow your life? What did you find out? And how can I help you fill in those gaps to make you a more complete person who you want to be, not who society wants you to be or I want you to be, but who you need to be.
Yeah, that's, it's a couple things there. It's like with with going through a treatment without a coach, it's like all you're fixing is the symptoms. You're not actually fixing the problem, right? Like, it makes you feel better, but as soon as that feeling goes away, you're right back to where you started. Whereas a coach, like, part of what you're explaining, what you're talking about, is getting someone where they go through and it fixes the symptom, but then the coaching actually starts to identify and help them on their own fix whatever is leading to that, them feeling that way.
Yes.
And we talked about before, it's like, it's when they get out of that, it's like, how are you going to adjust your life to fit with your new reality, which is, you're in an unaltered state basically, and you're not having these depressive, or your PTSD is, reduced, or whatever ultimately it is. But how are you going to adjust your life to fit what is the new version of yourself that is a more elevated, more progressive person? Because you're understanding what led to it, and you're understanding how to deal with it, like you said, like with meditation, with yoga. There's a lot of things that you can do. But the other thing I love that you said is, like, when you get out of a treatment, or when, for me, like, when people are going through a coaching program, that's when the work starts. It's not, I compare it to, like, if you write a goal down, well, that's great, but then you have to put in the work to make it come true. You can't write a goal down and then be like, this is the week for Powerball, I'm gonna get my ticket. It's that's where the work comes in. And I think people, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if they don't have a coach, they might go into it thinking, like you said at the beginning, I'm going to go through this and then I'll be fine. Instead of, like, really understanding what you're talking about with the pre-coaching and the post-coaching of, you need to know what this is going to feel like when you do come out. And then when they do come, it's like, okay, now your work actually starts. Like, we've got a game plan now. Now you got to start putting in the work. Is that, get that about right there?
Yeah, that was really quite accurate. Now, there are some people who aren't really messed up, would be a best way to put it. They might actually have an okay life, but something went wrong and they feel depressed. But it's not like I was depressed for 10 years. I was like a basket case. I got to the point where I was considering ending myself, right? Going home permanently. If you're not to that stage, then sometimes the kick in the pants that the psychedelics give you, it's a pattern interrupter because it takes your brain and it shuts down. Most of them, what they do is they shut down the central core, and then they open up certain receptors that aren't used to being fully open. So what happens is instead of all of the information going into your central core and then going to where it's appropriate, the central core gets shut down. So the information kind of has to find new paths to your brain, through your brain. So when you're seeing, it's not going into the central core and then going to your visual cortex. It's kind of going around your brain. So that's why some people can like see color or see sounds or fantastic things that are happening, or you start having auditory sensations because you start hearing things and it's not going the proper way through your brain. So it creates a sense of novelty. And that sense of novelty, everything being new, is a pattern interrupting. Your brain kind of goes, shorts out, reboots. So it like turns off for a second, turns back on. And there are people who aren't real depressed, like, again, just kind of surface level. And with them, those people might be able to take a psychedelic, have that reset, and be able to go back about their life. But if you're really depressed, if you like want to end yourself, if it's going on, then getting a coach will help you, because the psychedelics, the reset of the brain isn't going to fix that. You need to start rebuilding your life. You need to put in the work to work on your communication, to work on your family skills, to work on this. So you need to figure out what it is you need to work on. And that's where the psychedelics really come in. It's a personal medicine. You know, I could tell you exactly what's going to happen, but then when you experience, it's going to be so personal to you that it's not going to be what I told you. Even if it's exactly what I told you, it's not going to be what I told you. So that's the amazing thing, is because it's so personal to you, the person taking it, because it's all just inside.
Yeah, and something interesting, like just based on what you were saying, is like you were talking about people that have kind of minor cases, right? Like they're a little bit off or something like that, and how going through this process can reboot and then they'll be fine. But I also think that like with depression or anything like that, like, yes, it'll be a reboot, but it's gonna come back, because it'll reboot and you'll start to feel fine, but the same factors that you've been living your life with that led to wherever you were, however severe or slight, they're still there, and you still haven't learned how to deal with it, how to adjust your life to it. So, I mean, from my stance, I would say it wouldn't matter to me where you were on your happiness or your scale of severity of it. The importance of a coach is it's a different perspective, and it's truly kind of just giving you support, guidance, and having you look inside yourself to figure out, like, okay, after you're going to come out of this and you're going to feel fine, but let's work on what has led to this and adjust our lives now, because it's like you passed go, here's your $200, but it's a new round. So, start the next round on a positive note with a new game plan to avoid the pitfalls, the environments, the people, the situations, or whatever that you feel have led you to feeling the way that you did. Now you don't have that feeling, but now you need to remove yourself or adjust those situations and people or places, whatever, so that you don't go back there. It's about, I mean, I talk about it all the time. You have to look at your lifetime, not a short time, right? Like this is not, I go for a treatment every 6 months, and that's about, I get to the end of the 6 months and I start to feel bad again, then it kicks me back up. It's like, like you said, you go through it, but if you make the correct life adjustments and you're consistent with the plan that you've put in place and you're dedicated to truly making that change in your life, it should last you for a life. Because yes, I mean, everyone knows like stuff comes up in life. It happens to everyone, good, bad, otherwise, major, minor, stuff like that. But if you're in control of the scenarios that you're putting yourself into, and then something does come up, you can look at it honestly and say, I didn't put myself in this situation. And instead of, it's the difference between a reaction and a response, right?
Yes.
A reaction is something happened and you fall right into, oh my God, and the sky is falling, stuff like
You
that.
flip the switch and the reaction is instant.
Right. Instead of, something happens, you take a pause and you're like, okay, this was not my creation. I have changed my life. And then you can respond, which is the best way to go about it, because it's not emotional, it's thought out, and you've run it through your core values to say, okay, with this new scenario that I haven't faced, like, how does that align with what I value in myself to be able to respond appropriately?
Right. And here's one of my things. What you're talking about there is almost the tenets of Stoicism. The emotions and the stuff coming in are to be taken as information, but you remain calm, you remain centered, and you take it in as information, but then you look at all the factors and you make a decision going forward based on what's best for you, for whatever, and everybody, not just reacting to a situation. So yeah, that was beautiful. And one other thing that I would like to point out is another good reason to have a coach. Well, kind of two, is sometimes you go in and it's a challenging experience. And so it is rough. And if you have a coach that can set you up for that, you can understand how to breathe through it. You can understand how to take that challenging experience and maybe convert it into something else. So that's one thing. And the second best reason to have a coach is there are some people who have never experienced life. So when I look around, I see God and life everywhere. It's like I can't not see it anymore because of what I've been through. And most people look around and see all of this stuff, but they don't see the life in it. And so the first time they take the medicine, the psychedelic, they are woken up to this, and this stuff becomes so much more real than what happens in society. So suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is what it's supposed to be. Jobs are stupid, rent's stupid, marriage is stupid. And then they come home and it's like, I had this amazing experience, and they blow up their whole life. And that is not a good thing. So one of the things as a coach is like, you don't make major changes for like 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes depending on the medicine. So ibogaine in your system for 3 months. So it's called the honeymoon, because it gives you an opportunity to change and make differences for about 3 months before it starts to wear off. So you don't want to make drastic changes in your life. And so having a coach, it's like, oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. Calm down. Let's wait a couple of weeks. Let's make some small changes. Let's get ready for that in case, in a couple of weeks that is necessary. But right now, don't blow your life up. And so there's one of my mentors. He started talking to me because he did that. He went to Thailand and did mushrooms. And when he came back, he blew up his network. He blew up his job. He told everybody that he sent out an email to his entire network. He says, this isn't my life anymore. This is wrong. And he shut it all down. And he could have kept all of that and grown through it instead of blowing it up and starting from scratch. So with coaching, it can protect you not only in that, wow, that was really tough, how do I get through this challenging experience, but also not blowing up your life afterwards.
Yeah, and you're right. And I can see, I mean, not personally, but I can see how going through this and having, all of a sudden the world is like, opened up to you. And those times where you look back at like the life that you were before, you just wanted to go trash and start new. But it's I like an exercise that I do, and I'll tell everyone about it, is like 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes before you go to bed at night, just take that time, take that 5 minutes, and just look at all the things that are going right in your life. You know, it could be your job, could be happy, healthy kids. It could be, you know, a spouse that you're absolutely in love with and adore, or, you know, you've got a career that you truly enjoy and you're passionate about, whatever it is. But just take that 5 minutes, you know, twice a day, and just think about all the stuff that's going right in your life. Because what you'll start to find is you do that for about a week, and you'll realize your days actually go a lot better when you're doing it, because you're not waking up immediately scrolling. Oh God, you know, Bill's emailing me already. It's 6 a.m. What the hell? What, you know, what's he doing up already? You know, stuff like that. And automatically you start the day at like a negative ranking. Whereas if you just take that time before you turn anything on and shut the TV off at night and just look at all the stuff that's going right, because you'll find, if you really think about it, that list, you'll start to think of more and more and more and more stuff that actually is going perfectly well and makes you very happy in your life the way that it is. And you don't need these, for the most part, most people don't need massive, you know, life changes. It's adjustments. And that's what life's all about. You know, it's like, a guy told me a long time ago, it's like, if you look at your life as a flight from LA to Miami, there's only 2 times on that flight where the plane is actually going straight, and it's takeoff and landing. Everything else is all course corrections. You know, that's, pilots don't fly planes. They course correct. That's all they do. The whole, right? And if you look at your life like that, that's all you're doing, you know, and sometimes it requires a little bit bigger turn and stay on it a little bit longer, but it's not this, you know, well, crash the plane, I got to go get an F-14 or whatever.
Right.
You know, it's like, no, we just need to make this turn and maybe take it a little bit further, and then we'll get to the other side. But the other thing that you're talking about with that, the difference between, like, you know, a reaction and a response and stuff like that. I actually have this poster on my wall up here. It's says something I can't remember exactly, but it says something to the effect of the person you should worry about is the quietest person in the room. And it's true, because they're taking it all in, and they're choosing not to engage in every single thing that's going in. They're just taking it all in, digesting it, and typically then they pick what they want to engage in, and they've already digested all the information that they need to be able to respond and not react to any situation.
Yeah, I like that. So yeah, that's why you have 2 ears and 2 eyes and 1 mouth, so you can take in the information, so you can hear the information, and you're supposed to speak half as much. So I agree with that. And I wish that I could be that more often. I do get to do that sometimes. You know, it's a practice. You know, nobody is perfect. Nobody gets to do it all the time, right? But that is something that I try and do is to stay quiet and see where I fill in and see where I can be the most benefit to whatever's happening. And if staying quiet is the most benefit, then I stay quiet. If something needs me to move. So yeah, I agree with that, because I usually am kind of one of the quiet guys. It's kind of weird to be the guy talking the most.
Well, hey, these podcasts are no good if it's just you and I sitting here just not saying anything.
Right. You know, the weird thing is, though, is again, I am kind of quiet. So then when it is time for me to get talking, sometimes I get rambling and I get excited and I pour over myself and I just dump, because again, that whole quiet guy syndrome, when he does get to talk, finally, he does kind of like, blah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the kid in the back of the room that finally raises their hand, and you're like, all right, this is what I've learned all semester. Ready? Go.
Go. Yeah.
Wait, we went from the 1600s to the 2000s. How did we get here?
Yeah, I have so much I want to say, and I can't get it all out quick enough. So blah, 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 blah. So yeah, sometimes you just have to let people do that. And in my coaching, that's really important to let people do that. Sometimes for 2 or 3 sessions, they just have to dump and dump and dump and dump and get the stuff out. So you have to clear the pipes, get the garbage out before the clarity in what you need to say starts coming out. So some people don't get an opportunity to talk, don't know how to do it. So then as they start talking, the stuff starts tumbling out. That's when the magic starts happening. That's when you really find out who they are, because they'll throw something out there that they didn't mean to in the rush, and you can grab a hold of that. It's like, look at this thing that you just said. This is amazing. How can we incorporate that into your life? Oh, hey, look at this thing that you just said. This is something that you can just get rid of. How can we get rid of that? So the in that barrage of the first couple of just get it out, there's so much beautiful information that comes tumbling out that is so important to people that they don't even realize is there.
Yeah, and that's a great way of looking. It's like in dieting, right? Like there's a lot of programs out there that they all talk about, meal plans and this and that. But part of it typically is like you have to go through a period of detox, right? Which is you're taking little vitamins or whatever that's supposed to be just getting rid of all the stuff, that the man-made stuff that gets put into food, and getting it out of your body. And I equate that to exactly what you said. Like if you give someone the opportunity, you ask that open-ended question and they just start unloading, that's what they're doing. They're detoxing their life just through their words and through their emotions. And you gotta let it go. You just, hey, this is your time. If you feel necessary to unload, 15, 30 years worth of stuff, go. Because we need to get past it, because starting, today is day one of new you. Right. And, a lot of times people don't realize that it takes that step to, you got to get rid of the old to be able to truly start fresh. And, because too many times if you're starting something or you want to start fresh, but you haven't taken the time to actually figure out like what's been holding you back, or some of that old junk that's in your system, it's all that you're basically just you're poisoning yourself and your own progress, because you're constantly holding on to the old stuff and the old things that have impacted you and stuff like that. So yeah, it's there's a lot of parallels in terms of it's a different detox, right? Instead of getting it out of your digestive system and out of your body, you're just getting emotions just out. And it's cool that people have that especially when you're like, as a coach, when you're sitting there and someone starts doing that, I would be just like, not outwardly, but like I would just be ear to ear. This is good. Like you are making progress because you are getting rid of all this old stuff, and you don't have to think about it, and the fact that they're just out, their body is saying, just get rid of this stuff, because they're ready to start something new.
Yeah. If you get to the point where you're going to take psychedelics, there usually is something that needs to be addressed there. When you were talking, it reminded me of a video I saw on YouTube of where they opened up a spillway on a dam that hadn't been opened up in a lot of years. So they'll show it, and there's this huge clump of mud, and it comes out really slowly and goopy and gross, and then it like picks up speed, and then it's like starts shooting the mud out. But then eventually the clear water starts coming out, and the longer it runs, the clearer it gets, and the more pristine it gets. And that's the same kind of way with talking to a coach. Is at first it's just all this muddy stuff that's just been sitting there gets thrown out, and it takes a while for the clarity of your thoughts to start, because when you get stuck in there, you're down in that goop, you're in that mud, and then you have to get that out. Oops, I poked myself. You have to get that out to become clear in your own head. Jordan Peterson talks about you have to be able to talk to make your thoughts coherent, because if you just are in the thoughts and you're trying to make them in your head, then you're not necessarily sure if you're speaking in words or not. I think in concepts. Some people think in pictures, some people think in words. I think in concepts. So I'll have, sometimes it's like I want to say something to somebody. It's like, oh, hey, this is just 2 words. In my mind, it's 2 words, and I'll try and say those 2 words, and it comes out as like a book, because in my mind, that concept is 2 words, but those 2 words don't come out. So in the same way, it's like all of this garbage is in there, and you're down in that muck, and you need to blow it out to get some of that clarity, so that maybe you can find the word around those that you think are 2 to make it more clear for you.
Yeah, and that's, I love the example of the dam, because I've seen, it's probably maybe a different one or a similar one or the same one, but I've seen it where they crack that thing open, and it's just this, just like, cement mud grossness that comes out. And then you're right, it's like the longer it's open, it starts to clear up, all that stuff gets cleared out. And I think that's a great kind of just side by side with a lot of times where people get in life, is all of the stuff that they're going through, be it, be it because they're on autopilot, and they're, in a moment of quiet time, they're like, God, I'm not happy. Like, this isn't my passion. This isn't what I thought I was going to be doing. I have all these dreams and goals. I can't get going on them. And sometimes it's because there's so much goop built up that they got to get rid of that stuff. And, that's where coaches come in, is helping you see that it's not that there's anything wrong. It's just, you're a human being who's lived, however many years, 35, 45 years, whatever it is. And over that time, life piles up. And if you're not living your, like what your passion is, and living, with your true inspiration in mind, I hate to say it, but that stuff just piles up faster and faster, and you start going down. So I'll just take that opportunity now. So if you are feeling that way, like you're stuck, you're not living a life that inspires you, you don't feel like you're living your best life, just go project9life.com. It's a complimentary phone call. Just go there, schedule a call. Worst it's going to cost you is 30 minutes of your life. We're just going to talk about where you're at, where you want to go, how you plan to get there, how we can help you, see if we're a fit, and then we go from there. So, and then for you, Herb, best way to contact you is Facebook?
Facebook, yes. Go to my Facebook, go to my bio. There's a link for the same kind of thing that you have, as a complimentary call where we can discuss where you're at. Yeah, and it's not just for if you're going to do something. If you 3 years ago had an experience and it's still messing with you, talk to a coach. That's what happened to me. I had 3 years of experiences backed up, and then I got a coach, and it made 3 years of experiences make sense right away, and it helps so much more. So, reach out. And again, sometimes it's not always a one and done. So for me, with the structural damage in my brain and the way ibogaine works, ibogaine actually rebuilds brain cells. And another fabulous thing about ibogaine is it removes addictions. So if you have an opiate addiction, you can go to an ibogaine treatment, and it will remove a lifetime of opiate addiction symptoms in one shot. So you can be completely clear of the opiate addiction symptoms, not go through withdrawals, not go through any pain, just be done with it. But again, if you don't go with the coaching, if you don't clean your life up, if you don't have a plan to get rid of the stuff that made you an opiate addict in the first place, then even getting clean won't remove the reason you did it in the first place. So that's the really cool part about the being true to you addiction model, is it's being true to you. As you grow your life, as you become more happy with who you are, your addiction symptoms go away. And addiction is a symptom of a life not being lived true. So you're trying to fill something, you're trying to fill a hole in your life with the drug, with the porn, with the food, with whatever addiction you have. you're trying to fill in something that's missing in your life. So the being true to you model is they help you figure out what that is that you're missing, fill in those holes that the drugs are filling in right now, and grow you out of your addiction. And so that works not only with addictions but with other parts of your life too. So again, it started as an addiction service, but then it moved into the psychedelics. They help a lot of veterans because there's so many veterans with trauma that are coming through being true to me right now for the ibogaine pods, for the ibogaine work. It's actually joyful to me. So when I got to go do ibogaine that saved my life, I actually went to a veterans facility, and I'm not a veteran, but I was allowed to go to one of these. And so I went through my experience with several veterans, and that is now very near and dear to my heart to help other veterans who are in a world of hurt, because,
Yeah.
they keep our country safe, whether, however, I have a lot of respect for them, and they come home and then they're not treated real well. So, my heart goes out. I have a lot of respect, and there's a lot of work in ibogaine that can help people with military traumas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because those men and women that, basically you elevate in my eyes, like the day that you sign up. Like, you've made a commitment, and you deserve to be a level up in everyone's eyes, but especially those that have been in combat, the stuff that they've seen and experienced. Yeah, they deserve the best of everything, as well as everyone else, but them especially, because they're doing it for all of us, not just their immediate friends and family, but for however many 100 million, 300 million people there are in this country. So,
and they updated the numbers last year. They were keeping them kind of quiet. So people think that 22 veterans a day are killing themselves. That's the number that's kind of been out there. But last year they actually redid that number, and it's over 40 now. So 40 veterans a day are currently killing themselves. And there are medicines, there are helps, there are things out there. So if you have a veteran friend, if you know about it, look up. There's several organizations. There's No Fallen Heroes. The Black Rifle Coffee Company and JT sends a lot of veterans down there. So look for veterans assistances. Vetsolutions.org. Audrey and Marcus Capone. That's one of their facilities that I went to in Mexico, but they're very much out there trying to reach the military people. No Fallen Heroes is a gentleman named Wiz. He was a Navy fighter pilot, and he is helping to get first responders and airline pilots and other people like that down to get these medicines, because again, he was a Navy fighter pilot. And in the airlines, if you talk about mental illness, you're taken out of the air. So airline pilots aren't allowed to talk about this stuff. So to get through to these people, there's so many organizations out there. So if you're a vet, if you're a military, if you're a first responder, reach out to me. I can get you into the right people. Or again, No Fallen Heroes. Look up the Black Rifle Coffee Company. There's several more, but they're just kind of falling into the holes in my brain right now.
Yeah, that's a great resource, and certainly if you know anyone, just get a hold of Herb, and he'll get you going in the right direction. That's for sure. But I think an important lesson for everybody and anyone that's listening is, I think a big challenge that, as a coach, that and any coach, that a lot of us face is, a lot of people don't realize that there are really good coaches who have the right intentions for basically everything human that you could have going on in your lives. Obviously there's the big ones, like, personal trainers, health coaches, people that'll talk about finances, accumulating wealth. There's marriage coaches, all sorts of stuff like that. But there's all these little niches and all these little places that, if you do some work and you're experiencing something that you feel you're at the stage where you need help with, there's going to be a coach. And with technology today, it doesn't have to be in your town. It doesn't even have to be in the country. I've talked to plenty of people around the world, sometimes in the same day. Yesterday, I was on the phone with someone in Hawaii and someone in Australia. And it's just, with technology, it's all at our fingertips, right? But my best guidance is, like, if you imagine you're going along in your life and you see like the Grand Canyon coming up, right? And that's going to be like your tipping point. Like, disaster lies there if you just keep walking straight. The best time to reach out and get coaching help with your goals, with your life, with your depression, or whatever else, your PTSD, whatever you're going through, the best time is when you know it's coming up, but you're not even close to it yet. Get help now, because you're the Titanic. If you see it that far ahead, your change, you can make a slight turn and avoid it by thousands of miles.
Got it.
Second best is, like, as you get closer and you're getting closer to the precipice, at least that way, yeah, the turn might be sharper. It's going to require more hard work because you've put in more time just living the same thing over and over and over again, but you haven't fallen off the cliff yet. Worst case is you have fallen off the cliff, but there's still coaches there that will get you from wherever you're falling to your resolution. And all we do is, in cases like that, is we don't necessarily solve anything. But if you imagine, like right? Like, if you fall off the cliff here, a coach's job, we're not going to walk through all this stuff with you. We're just going to shallow out that bottom and get you from where you're at to going back up as quickly as possible. And it's because we've talked to, thousands of people, heard thousands of stories. It's based on, like, my company is based on my journey. So I'm going to share with people, this is what worked for me. And, that's all I'm doing. I'm not saying it's black, white. I'm not saying it's right, wrong. I'm just saying, this is what worked for me. This is what I've learned. This is what I've read, which is I read a ton. And, this is just the life that I've created for myself because of what I've learned. And all I want to do is help other people recognize that and live their best life, because you can talk to a million people. There's a million different ideas of what their best life is. I'm not saying you have to do something or don't do something. It's your life. You're creating what is your best life in your own mind. Some people, it's like, I want to be fit. I want to travel the world. Other people are like, I want to be able to walk a couple miles, to be active enough. And, I want to get to the point to where when I retire, I don't have to rely on Social Security or whatever. Hey, if that's your best life, then good. We can put plans together, and there's going to be work, right? I mean, the stuff that I put together, it is simple, but it's not easy, right? The simplicity comes because the last thing I want is, like, okay, you're going to set a goal. All right, good. Here's a 99-point plan. I know right off the bat, people are going to get through like 2 and go, oh, it's dumb. There's 5 things. That's it. It's simple. It's straightforward, but it's not easy, because as soon as you get to the point where you're like, all right, this starts tomorrow, your work starts.
Right.
And the same with you. It's like, when they're done with that treatment, now your work starts. We've got this plan in place. We're going to coach you up. We're going to give you all the resources. You're going to come up with the plan. We're going to help guide you, not tell you right or wrong or anything, but help you understand what the choices are and what those repercussions or benefits are. But you got to work. You have to put the work in. And if whatever you were dealing with, if it's because of a certain situation that you kept putting yourself into, it is going to require your work to not put yourself in that same situation again. And sometimes it could be people, it could be places. It's as you grow, your circle tends to change. It just does, because you're always going to have people that are trying to drag you back down, and you have to make a decision. Like, is it worth it with where I'm going? Not to maybe not to completely alienate someone, but just to avoid the situations where that person pulling you down pulls you to a bad place, and just avoid the situation. They want to go out or something like that. Just be like, I'm busy.
Right.
I got a Zoom call I got to jump on or something like that, So I don't know. That's just kind of my take on there's never a wrong time to seek out coaching. So, and there's someone available for everyone out there.
Right.
Well,
one of the things that Einstein said is you can't solve the problem from within inside of the problem. So if you have a problem and you're in the middle of it, then you need someone outside of the problem to come and say, hey, this is what's going on, and this is a path out. One of my mentors says is you can't see the label on the outside of your own bottle. So it's like you don't know what's in you. So you have to have somebody outside of you saying, hey, this is what I see inside of this bottle. So they need to read the label to you. So yeah, the fixing the problem from within the problem, you bring in outside help to help you see it. So because some of the problems that I've had that my coaches have said, hey, have you noticed that you're doing this? And it's like, wow, I didn't even see that. I didn't understand that. So there's a lot of things that coaches can point out that maybe just not even something you do, but just a little mental shift. And then you can make corrections yourself based on what you want, what you think.
Yeah. It's like, everyone loves they go to the doctor and they get diagnosed with something, get a treatment plan. People's first reaction is usually, I want a second opinion. Well, guess what a coach is? A coach is your second opinion.
Right.
The first one is yours. The second one is you're getting a coach's different perspective on what you're telling us that you're wanting, how you're going to get there, and how we can put a plan together to get you there. That's going to, it's going to give you a better chance of success than going it alone. And that, we're not going to, no one's going to guarantee that, you say you want to be a billionaire. I'm not going to be like, well, sign up, let's get you there. I mean, no, but if that's your goal, we'll put the plan together, but the work is going to come down to you. And the coaches, myself, yourself, we're just going to give you a different perspective and a different, another set of eyes on, how it works and things that, based on our experience, this is some of the things that you're going to need to do. This is some of the things that you're going to want to avoid. If, and here, you're going to put your game plan together for how you're going to make it work. Like you said, you're not going to tell someone you have to do this, you can't do this, but you're going to listen to them and give them a different perspective on these are things that I'm seeing that are impacting you. So
you said that this was impacting you and you wanted to change this part of your life. So for you to change this part of your life, here are some tools. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this. These are 3 things that can affect that. Do one of those things sound like something that you would do, that you would want to do? Great. Let's see how we can implement that. Oh, that's not working. Well, then let's try this other tool. So it's not a ride or die plan. It's not you do this and this will fix you. It's, hey, let's try this. Let's see how it works for a month, for 2 months. And so it's a long-term process. It's not, again, it's work. It's not just, hey, I'm all better now. So many people want that fix it pill. Like, I'm going to take this once and be all done. But if your life isn't where you need it to be, then that's just going to show you where you need to work, not fix you.
Yeah. And, just last comment for me will be like, you were talking about how, you tend to be quiet, but I think there's power in quiet and just letting your brain do what it's going to do. It's going to wander. It's going to think of stuff, especially like get outdoors, take a walk, and just have quiet, and you can do it. If it's not taking a walk, there's things like meditation, like yoga, stuff like that, that give you that quiet that lets your brain kind of do what it does. And it does amazing things. So
yeah, that's actually a tool in coaching, is the pause, the quietness. Somebody says something, the coach isn't just necessarily just jump right in. Sometimes you let that sit for 30 seconds, sometimes for 2 or 3 minutes, and that silence, as it drags on, the people, the clients, like, go deeper and they get something. So that, sometimes coaching is letting that silence sit there and pull the information out of you. In a podcast, can't really do that, because if we had that kind of dead air, it gets awkward.
Yeah, it's like let's just be quiet for 2 minutes to be like, no.
But yeah, sometimes in a coaching session, you say something, they answer it, it sounds like they're done, but then you just let that linger because you can feel something else there, and then they'll let that little nugget out that's been holding them there. And sometimes when people say stuff, you can see this look of shock on their eyes that is like, wow, did I say that? Is that how I think? Is that how I believe? And because sometimes people don't know what they think, and they don't know what they believe in, and those gripping silences pull that out, and it's like, whoa, that is something I need to work on.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Herb, we are out of time, so thank you very much. It's been a great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to come on today.
I had a pleasure. It was a wonderful conversation. I could talk about this stuff all day long. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And for viewing audience, we'll see you guys later.
Have a great day.